the ego is very important. So I'm always evolving with my essence. It's not something I'm trying to ever get rid of. It's not something I wanted to have haste or distaste for. I want it to be healthy because it's fundamentally important to my existence, as well as my essence, as well as the ethereal and the energetic and the emotional, all the layers of being a holistic human. So it's always there. It's always present. And when I'm triggered, or if another person steps forward with their judgment or opinion, true freedom, which I like to have and feel, means, okay.
Hi, everyone. This is the Ego Project, and I am Lisa Heidel, and I am here with
Stephenie Zagorski.
And Stephenie is also known as iScry with Steph on YouTube. Now, Christine had a scheduling conflict today, but since this is our Halloween special, we decided to just move forward. So Christine is here in spirit, pun intended. Okay.
Perfectly placed.
And so we have also integrated part of our conversation, the ghost tube. So Steph, can you explain a little bit what that is?
Absolutely. So I will turn it on now. It is an app that connects with spirit, and it'll bring words forward that it generates through its catalog. Respect apparently is coming through. I have no affiliation, but I just found throughout all the different apps and the ease of doing it online with the readings, it's a part of what I've grown up with in different contexts. So yeah, it's just another addition of inspiration.
I love it. Oh, it's going to be exciting. And this is our Halloween special. And so let's see what comes through.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick, Steph, and then we're going to jump into your bio.
Perfect.
Sound good? Okay. All right, everyone, I want to let you know that Joy Malik, who is a guest, has been a guest on the Ego Project and will be a guest in November, is generously offering a 10% off code for her pod course called From Heartache to Connection, 6 Strategies for Growing Secure Attachment. So go ahead and check out the link in the description box and just click on through and use the code TEP, the Ego Project, TEP10, the number 10, and you will get 10% off the cost. So it's a great pod course. I loved it. I have taken so many notes. And then when Joy joins us in November, she will be going deeper into the information about the attachment strategies that we all have. Okay. So definitely check that out. Okay. So that is done. I am going to go ahead and jump into your bio, Steph.
Randy.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then we're going to start having our conversation. Okay. So Steph is an artist and intuitive since childhood. And growing up with a psychic medium mother, she has always considered the paranormal as normal. After holding a lengthy corporate career in the airport environment and in executive administration, Steph eventually left the corporate world and became a yoga teacher, meditation guide, Reiki master, and practitioner of holistic and Thai massage. It's a lot, yeah. Steph's artwork focuses around empathic expressionism, utilizing ink blots to act as a visual vessel to activate the abstract mind and awaken one's ancient awareness. This interaction with scrying leads to intellectual and intuitive insights and inspirations that not only serve but strengthen our psyche and psychic senses. It is in the liminal and nonlinear storytelling that the shapes, symbols, and spirits speak, and those reflections are realized or released freely while we share in the art of symbolic support. Steph's work can be found all around the world in private collections and publicly in creative and conscious collaborations like the Emotional Kaleidoscope Introspection Oracle Deck and Liminal Reflections Journal. There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And we just learned that Steph loves alliteration. Okay, I love
Oh,
it.
wonderful.
As do I. So there's no,
Love it.
that's said with love. Okay.
Of
Um,
course.
okay. So welcome, Steph.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, our pleasure here on the Ego Project, and I am thrilled to have this conversation with you. I love your YouTube channel. I absolutely love it. It's a whole experience
Oh,
when you
thank
go
you.
there. I mean, from the thumbnails, which is that your original art, the thumbnails?
No, it's not. It would prove to reason why I don't use the art as the thumbnails, but
Feeling.
it sometimes doesn't express what's happening like in regards to learning the online platforms. So like an inkblot of just an inkblot doesn't necessarily indicate Taurus or a spirit message. So I admit I love kind of creepy, spooky black and white. So I kind of get to blend my contrast with my color with the thumbnails.
Oh, they're so eye-catching.
Oh,
So
that's
from
good.
the moment you see the thumbnail and then go into your channel on YouTube and, see your
Work.
background, see the ink blots that are coming through. Of course, having the ghost tube, you know,
Just the life is full of interruptions. You just got to let it,
I just,
just let
and
it
then
be.
Oh, and then your tarot and oracle interpretations and your interpretations of the inkblot. It's a whole experience. I highly recommend it. We want so many people to go and see you. So I had to do a little bit of,
Oh, thank
I'm a
you.
little fan right now. So thank you.
Oh, I have a fly buzzing around here all of a sudden. So don't mind me if I'm like, I'm not just randomly shoo-shooing things.
I think there's some symbolism there. Maybe that will come out through the conversation.
I swear. Or it's just the farm field beside me.
That could be it
It
as
just
well.
comes. They are daunting little creatures, but that's okay.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I had to be a little fangirl there. So
No,
want to
thank you. I appreciate that because I'm always in a state of learning. Like online and presenting myself is very new for me. I tend to be a natural hider. It's where I, just let me do my thing quietly. So learning what kind of thumbnails work, all the language of online stuff, even like what you're presenting as a persona, as a personality. I'm learning all these tricks of the trade literally as I go along, just floating about, figuring it out, and still trying to hold true to what I like, because that is important to me. It's like, I need to be authentic, that I enjoy my own thumbnails. And I'm like, yeah, I like them. So
I
I
like it. And
appreciate that.
your authenticity comes through so beautifully. It truly
Oh, good.
does. And I haven't seen anything else like it,
Oh,
which, well, and that's authentic, right?
strange and unusual. It's pretty fitting. It's pretty fitting. I
Oh,
don't try to do that. It just, I guess it's part and parcel of exploring and say, okay, I'm gonna
This is my place.
just be who I am and figure it out, and that's okay. The angst of the adult of to get it right the first time, the control, the essence of the machine and getting it right the first time. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna figure this out as I go along, and I'm gonna be okay with that and literally enjoy the journey, as uncomfortable and comfortable as it can be. But it's actually kind of nice. It's fun.
and it's inspiring for other people who are
That's
considering taking that path. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and to take
Gemini.
a little bit of that pressure off ourselves, right? To remember to have fun with it and go, I don't know if this is the right thumbnail or this is the right title and all of these different things that, yeah, it's fine. You'll figure it out. And that's cool. Just do it.
Yeah,
Just do it.
good. So, and for our listeners, the voice that you're hearing kind
Help
of,
me.
coming through is the ghost tube. And
Yes.
as Steph said, she has no affiliation with them, but she uses it in her
Mhm.
videos and as she's interpreting the ink blots. And do you consider what you do channeling?
There's creatively, yeah, creatively, definitely. It's kind of like there's a lot of having all the senses triggered differently at different times. So some might be sound and some might be seeing and touching and whatnot. And then I just kind of decide what I can tune into at that moment, like what's standing out the most. And it's like, okay, then I'm going in there. And so it is a channel, but it's like there's many channels. And depending on which element is stepping forward the most clearly is kind of where I go in that moment.
How did you get started? And, for our listeners and those who haven't experienced iScry,
Apologize.
I'm sorry, those who haven't experienced iScry with Steph, she uses ink blots in order to scry and messaging that's coming through. And so actually, I'm going to back up for a moment and ask you, what is scrying exactly?
Immune.
This fly is very fun. So scrying for me is, in the simplest way, gazing to gain. And I try not to complicate that. Whether I'm gazing at the clouds, at a fire, wood grain in a fence, to a carpet on the floor. And, when people walk and like smudge their feet and it creates carpet differentiations of the shading, it just kind of, I'm that person that kind of gazes into that and suddenly things will step forward. And I gain the insights, whether it's intellectual, intuitive, or more imaginative. I don't really try to control what compartment it's for, what the reason is, if there's a truth. I'm also not a truth seeker. So I just kind of allow it to be an experience. So scrying for me is just simply the art of gazing to gain. And truly whatever I'm gaining, I'm not controlling. I'm just open to receive that in some way, shape, or form.
Has that been something you've been able to do since childhood?
In one form or another, yes. I did traditionally mirror scrying, which I think most people know about, or yeah, I'll use that. Like, I know some people use candles and whatnot, but kind of mirror scrying is the most familiar, or in obsidian. And I had a very strong experience with that in my teenage years, It was pretty potent, and I kind of had to shut her down for a little bit. I'm like, no. But there was always, oh, my ear thing fell out. There was always, growing up with a psychic medium mother, it was normal. It was normal to sense spirit. It was normal to feel weird things. And so you just I didn't know the term scrying. I just knew that's, as I got older, I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm just using my senses to see things differently. I might be using my hands for psychometry, but I'm seeing things. So, but there's always that common gazing, resting, releasing, relaxing. If I ever actually do that, well, I don't know, but I do try. I do try.
You've said in your videos that when you're in that space of receiving messaging and interpreting your art, through the ink blots for your audience, that you actually really like being in that space. Can you describe a little bit what that feels like to you, and, how you get into the energy of that?
I feel like I'm pretty obvious in the way I open with everybody. Generally, for the most part, is, I take my crystal ball and close my eyes, clear the palette of perception. I release the race and the rush. And that's really part of it. I'm just drawing into the moment and to activate that abstract mind and ancient awareness to the best of my ability. And whatever alchemy of the day, the craziness of what's going on and to-dos, and then diving into the ink blot, it's my safe way. Because, like, think about like any sort of traumas I may have from when I was a teenager with the mirror. Those don't exist here because I'm the creator. I'm the one who gave birth to this. And it's always in the name of something. So whether it's written in the name of the Ego Project or Jennifer or Jessica, the muse, that connection with it, it's the energy of that that I feel comfortable in. And it's whether it's contrastual black ink to colorful ink, it's safe because it's fluid for me. So it really appeases like the empathic kind of energy. It's like rivers, and it might be a, like a lazy river, or there might be this little waterfall section, and I can just kind of float around, and there's no pressure. There's no pressure to be right. There's no pressure to be wrong. Those polarities don't exist there. The typical constructs of duality and the dimension, it's all consciousness collaboration, and it's fun. It's fun.
Oh, I love that. And I think so often, people take it so seriously, and it's exploring energy. And,
Mhm.
and we do that all the time, but we put so much, like you
Keep
said,
recording.
right and wrong, good and bad. We put so much labeling on it, when it's just like, I love that idea of just go with the flow. Let it take you where it needs to
I'm not
take you.
sure.
Yeah, and not, thank you, Ghostbox, and not being sure. And that's okay. That feeling of the unknown, that, the liminality of it, and but to lean into that, for me, it's teaching me constantly to trust that more and more. The veins that connect us all in different ways, different forms, different shapes. And what if I see, a bear or something like that, I might
30.
have a memory come up or an association, so I can share the association, but I'm not giving anything meaning. You still hold power. I'm not telling you anything like you should do this. I don't know if anyone else grew up, but, as soon as somebody said, don't do this, well, I'm doing it. Like, don't tell me. So there's this respect that I have, that the muse or anyone watching, you are always in your point of power. I'm grateful for the space to share the meaning that I'm feeling, but it by no means is the be
Another
all
room.
end all. It is only one piece. And you could say, oh, a bear, I just saw a bear movie the other day, or a bear means something to me. My grandfather had, bear slippers, and it brings up your own memory. That's the important part. I'm just happy to have space to share my side of it.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people are the takeaway that they're going to have from that is it's okay to explore
Mhm.
the paranormal. The metaphysical, and there are no rules, and there are no, you know, for lack of a better word, like, no one's in charge of this except for
Mhm.
us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
definitely a sense of those rules that, we have here, which serve respect and reciprocity. You hold that accountability. You're the only one. And to hold that responsibility without the weight we might feel it at work or at home or in our other contexts and subject matters, here, that responsibility and accountability feels free, at least for me. So it feels very normal. Just, it feels normal.
Oh, I love that. Now, you said that your mother is a psychic
Yep.
medium. And so it wasn't something that, wasn't known to you, but, this is the ego project, and we heal those ego wounds, throughout our
Absolutely.
lifetime. Right. So can you talk a little bit about any work that you've done around the ego,
Mm.
where people maybe
Hot.
judge what you do, don't understand what you do, and, make it something that it's not? Can you speak a little bit about that?
I can look at it broadly, probably over my whole life, that ego is uh, something I learned a lot about in the corporate world in one aspect of it. And I admit I held ego more so in the corporate or, traditional industries that we're familiar with. And I thought that was what ego everyone was talking about. That was the only thing. And it wasn't, and it isn't for me. It's a constant evolution that I realized, even then moving from corporate to
Can
holistic
you hear him?
world, the ego still exists. and actually very similar in some cases to like a corporate driven ego, but it's just hidden a little better, that whole sheep and wolves clothing and vice versa. But from those both experiences, I've realized in stepping forward now is the ego is very important. So I'm always evolving with my essence. It's not something I'm trying to ever get rid of. It's not something I wanted to have haste or distaste for. I want it to be healthy because it's fundamentally important to my existence, as well as my essence, as well as the ethereal and the energetic and the emotional, all the layers of being a holistic human. So it's always there, it's always present. And when I'm triggered, or if another person steps forward with their judgment or opinion, true freedom, which I like to have and feel, means okay. It's, I don't know what else to say. It's fine, because I want people to have that feeling of that space as well, for their ego to interact and learn through whatever projections back and forth one might have. And if I happen to be that person because they don't understand, do you want to have a conversation? A conversation can go really far. And other times when people don't want a conversation, they just want to say, oh, Steph, you're weird. This doesn't make sense. That's woo woo. That's okay too. If you've shut me down and that's your claim and that's your stake, I assume you are in turn nurturing something within yourself, ego or essence. And it's not my business actually to defend or prove my worth or my adventures here being human.
Wow, that is freedom. That is true freedom. And I imagine that your connections, your true connections with people are so much deeper because you're not trying to dictate the outcome.
No, not with people around me. What I'm trying to learn is how to offer myself that same freedom that I freely have and hold true heartedly. But for some reason, it's always harder when it comes back to the self, right? And to say, okay, we'll feel it. So I had to cultivate the environment for that, to start nurturing my own sense of freedom and work through any guilt or resentments I may have from just life, right? We all have that, but to move through them and to not have it be so strict. I'm a tough love person. I get it. It has value. I always said I could be like part of the military or a gypsy. Like I'm equal. I can see value on every side. So I just had to learn over time, and still cultivate and remind myself, nobody's going to create and hold space for you. You have to be the creator of that and the nurturer of that. And from that vitality that I can give whatever I'm doing, whether it's an inkblot or a tapestry or doing my dishes to making dinner, they're equally an expression of my love and freedom and free will for the frequencies all around me.
Yeah, I can hear from your description the work that you've done around finding your worth in the
Thank you.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we're very conditioned that our worth is dictated by, how much money we have, what we own, our accomplishments, how much, the
Yeah.
accolades we receive. And that's not worth. Those are just the outcomes of what we do, right?
Yeah.
And the true service is what we offer to others.
Absolutely. And it's not for me, it's not even in this, like, and I can hear it's like the psyche and the psychic and the in-between of the psychedelica, and they have this conversation of, these value systems and placing this, and this, and to truly just start to realize that, and people have said it many times, you can be the person that goes out and goes to the store and does the mundane work to get the food and all the ingredients, but it's still not a meal, and it still doesn't fill the belly, and it doesn't give you warm soup belly. Somebody has to make the soup. and that can be a very big role sometimes that is very much so missed if it's not there.
Oh, that was said beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh,
I'm
you're
going to
welcome.
hold that close because it's true, right?
Warm soup
Back
belly.
off.
Yeah. Well, and so often we get very lost in our doing,
Hmm.
yet we miss the achieving
That was
in what we're
beautifully
doing.
said.
Yeah. And we, especially as female identified, female presenting in
Yeah.
the world, we are expected to do, yet are we really expected and encouraged to achieve in the
Mm.
world,
Mm.
and being recognition of, I can go get the groceries, but making the soup to feed
Hmm.
those I love, that's an achievement.
That's beautifully articulated. See, curious conversations, they
I
just
love
connect.
it.
Like it just
We're just gonna flow in this.
right? That's the feeling. There you go. That's the feeling of being in an ink blot. You're just kind of like, oh yeah. It's like being the water between, the channels of the earth, of the riverbed. You're grounded. You're okay. You're okay.
Yeah, and you're moving. There's
Yeah.
movement there. Yeah.
And it's good.
Mhm.
It's all good.
Yeah. Well, and for everyone listening, Steph generously created an ink blot and interpretation for the Ego Project, which was kind of blew my mind a bit, to be honest with you. And I imagine it couldn't have been easy because you're dealing with two people, Christine Seidel and
Hmm.
myself, and who are trying to create one thing. And so you basically had three energies in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Plus
interesting. It was
all the
interesting.
other energies around us, which, by the way, I
Recently.
knew.
I'm glad you can resonate and relate with it, because it was definitely one of those, how do I, intelligently want to go about this? And usually that's when I just think. I am, Capricorn, so I'm like, okay. But I always end up just going back to what I know, and I'll usually release that and allow the ink blot to come out, usually on its own time. So even like when somebody requests an ink blot, I don't do it immediately. It's okay, the invitation's been there, the request is there, and then there's like this ooey gooey kind of okay, and this growing, and then the ink
Buy
comes
me a
out.
coffee.
So when I did the ink blot, which was one part of the offering, but then when I was re-invited to scry it, I'm like, oh my, how do I do this? From whose perspective? There's too many people. There's too many. But I didn't get overwhelmed by it. But I definitely had the moment where I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. And that's okay. And take a deep breath. And it's like taking a dive off the diving board. And it's not for me to figure out. It's not for me to have it make sense. It's not for me to scrunch it together and go, oh, this is the story. And once I remind myself of that, yeah, dive right in.
Well, when I listen to the video, which will be released
Yep.
on iScry with Steph, so
Mhm.
all of our listeners and hopefully more people can go and find it. I was like, oh my, a little bit. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're in my energy. Yeah, and you're in Christine's. And it so much came through, and it really gave me a lot of things to think about and to consider. And then I was also able to look at the ink blot, and things came through to me. So, I mean, to have all of those mediums in there,
Mhm.
really, I mean, it really was valuable from, someone who was receiving it.
Mm.
So thank you. And I'm going to let all of our listeners know that you can go to the Ego Project website, and it is our spotlight episode that will be on there. You can also, as you're listening to the podcast, look at the ink blots,
Mm.
and Steph does them both
Yes.
upright and reversed.
Move over.
And those who know Christine and I bet you'll
Poke.
know which one is which. Okay. And so put in the comments which one you think is me, which one you think is Christine, which upright or
Oh,
reverse.
that's great.
And anything, share with us. If you're like, oh, that's Lisa, or oh, no, that's Christine, please share that. And also, any feedback for, iScry with Steph, I'm sure is
Absolutely.
very valuable. So, but that link will be in the description as well.
Fair
So
enough.
let me ask you, when you're doing those ink blots, because it's your art,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm a writer, so I'm all about art,
Alien.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sorry, I just heard. So
You get used to it, but
don't you
sometimes,
keep talking. I know
yeah,
you keep, yep. But you also hear it. It's like,
yeah,
oh, interesting. I mean, there's more energies here in this
absolutely.
conversation,
Absolutely.
as we're having the conversation, and our listeners. So as a listener, if you hear something from the ghost
Mm-hmm.
tube that resonates, please share that in the comments as well.
Well, and that's also one of the reasons why I like it in the readings, because it's not for me. And we talked about this before, right? I don't want to, if I'm doing a spirit message, scry, that's a little different because I'm sitting here opening up to, usually, I'll be honest with you, the spirits of my home. And I'm like, okay, guys, what's going on here? Like, who? I don't have a direct muse I can predict. So those I tend to interact with the spirit box a little bit more, or the ghost tube. But when we're doing readings or in something like this, it's tough to just,
I love you.
I love you too, to tune into it. It could be for anyone in the audience that if their energy is connecting to it or to you, and it's no different than the inkblot, right? It means something to somebody, and we don't have to constipate it with, what we want it to be or who's that for. It's fun.
I like it. It's very interesting. And, I've listened to your other videos as well. And when you're, doing, whether it's for astrology with
Mhm.
the signs, I'm a Taurus. So, I
Oh, yeah.
always listen to Tauruses.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah. Torian. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I always enjoy those. And of course I listen for my moon sign and my
Yeah.
rising sign and my
Uh,
Venus. So yeah, and which I encourage everyone to do, because we're always shifting in our energies, right? And
absolutely.
and we have all of the signs in our
And
chart,
yeah.
right? So
Absolutely. And even still, like I find for myself, like wandering around as technically a Cap Sag cusp. And sometimes I want to draw in a little Leo energy. Like I just intelligently and intuitively want to tune into that collective because they have certain, aspects of themselves that are more prominent. It's like this Capricorn needs a little Leo here. So I'll tune in to literally draw in and work with that energy and
Bless.
and bring it in versus thinking it's something outside of me. And oh, that's what Leo is going through. That's what Virgo is going through. Sometimes it can be really valuable just to tune in and really receive the help from the other constellations. Like that, they are part of the collective. It is part of the all consciousness. So buddy up. It's all good.
yeah, I love that, because I think a lot of people, well, in our Western culture, we tend to know our
Mhm.
sun sign, but there is so much more going on in our birth charts, and we're all unique. There
Mhm.
are no two birth charts that are the same. We're all even twins, they're not,
Yeah. No,
um,
you're right.
they don't come out at the exact same time,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
typically. And so, I think it's so fascinating for you to be able to tap into the collective energy, as opposed, because I do tarot reading as well, and it's a one-on-one thing. I very
Mhm.
rarely tap into one. I don't think that's a gift I have. And so what is that like for you to, I mean, because you're aware of what's going on for yourself, like as a
Mhm.
Capricorn, as an
Yep.
example, but then to be tapping into all these other energies. Do you ever worry that you're mistaken, that you're misleading? What type of ego work do you do around that?
I always remind myself that I'm not here to tell anyone a darn thing. That's not what I'm doing. And I feel, as much as I can say it or don't say it, the the power is always with the person who is perceiving. It's my space to share. And I do have to hold that for myself to explore and to have that aura astronaut experience. So I try to be very mindful that of holding my own space to say, don't get too constipated with what could upset somebody else.
Angry.
Exactly. Somebody else could be angry, but it also could be a space, should they follow that with me, to transmute it in the moment. You could keep following through the reading and receive something at minute 29 or minute 13, and they don't make sense individually, but to somebody, if you follow and connect your own dots along the way, it's like taking all the stars that we have mapped out as constellations and then taking all the lines out and saying, connect your own dots, create your own constellation through that. And you could actually move through something if you're willing to keep, I don't want to say like keep your attention, because I understand for what's typical out there right now, at least, for the majority, I'll say it's not as, it's very clear, right? It's okay, past person, there's this, there's that, and it's very wonderful. And it's amazing, but that's not my skill set. I'm not a predictive kind of person, and it's generally not how I roll unless it's blatantly in front of me. And for some, that's great. And for those that wander into more of the surreal, like wonderland, and it's like you're willing to go through the journey with me and get past that I'm not telling you anything. But it takes some energy to be there sometimes, I find. It does, if it's not the normal, right? Am I going to meet somebody? I don't know. Are you open to meet people? Or do you have a closed door? Did you have a welcome mat? Or do you not have a welcome mat? Like there's so many physical environment and energetic ego oriented things that we have in place. And it's not my place to sift through all that, but it is my place to hold a healthy ego for me and to have the, how do I say that? To create a tether for others to feel safe in my space to go through that if they want to.
I think that's such a healthy approach to doing something that is ethereal.
Thank you for saying it like that. I feel like I rammered on for like 10 minutes, probably.
No, I was with you 100% on all of it. Yeah, no, I'm with you because, anyone who takes in information and then tries to interpret it verbally, right? There is, especially for others, there is a little bit of anxiety around that, because, communication is not just communication. It requires comprehension on the other side. You can't have one without the other.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
I mean,
look at
you
the
can talk and
wisdom's
talk
just
and talk.
pouring out. Wisdom everywhere. I love it.
But it is, right? I mean, that's, we have to be able to have this reciprocal co-creation with others in our space. And we've all run into those places where, we're trying to communicate, we're trying to say something. And the other person, that too.
Ooh la la. A little sexy spirit over here.
Give me a minute. This cannot be good air.
Always got to allow the silly in with the serious.
Exactly. And that's what sets us apart from other podcasts, right?
There you go.
We do not have a problem with giggle fits.
No, I'm laughing. It's so fun. Again, it's like always that it's nice to be ridiculous sometimes, because you kind of, you can shake something off and
we take it like, so seriously, don't we?
Yeah. And then we're like, oh, where were we? Oh, does it even matter?
Frightened.
I don't know. But yeah, it can frighten people. I understand it. I'm compassionate to it, but
yeah, me too. And I'm always thrilled when I meet people that can kind of hop on that boat with me, right? We're just going to see where this goes. Okay. But I so agree with you. And, like I said, working in that kind of metaphysical, unseen space and trying to turn it into something that people can grab onto really and understand. That's not an easy feat. It's not easy. And when you're speaking, doing your interpretations of the
Mhm.
inkblots and interpreting the oracle cards and the tarot cards, it does feel like you are, for your viewer, that you are almost in a bubble of
Mm.
energy, and it seems to just kind of flow out of you. Is that how it feels? You said that you like being in that space. You shared that earlier
Mhm.
about what it's like for you. Does it feel like you are in almost like a different space?
Yeah, I like the bubble analogy. Thank you. I'm glad that see, like it exudes out, and yeah, I just really enjoyed that. So thank you. It's like in the whole concept of like the intelligence and intuition with the bridge of imagination that kind of ties it together. The way it feels though is more psychic with the psychedelica space in between. And for anyone that has worked in, whether it's breath work or whatever, there's so many spaces of psychedelica where it I don't even know how to say it. It just moves a little differently, like the bubble, watching a bubble float. Like you said, it's iridescent. There's lots of colors and it can change forms, and then it can also just pop and it's like, oh, okay, I'm out. Yeah, that's okay too. And it's just like this little psychedelic space and like a medicine moment, or being in a sweat lodge. And then I kind of come out and oh, okay, yeah, back to reality. And that's okay too, right? I know there's many situations in my own life and other people's lives, and you hear through the hauntings and the healings of the hearts and the human experience, and this escapism that we have going on, whether it's from the ego or some really strong traits that the ego has, and that maybe another side trying to cultivate a harmony between the two of them, and realizing that they're best together in a movable, healthy form, and not holding them to this stagnant 50-50 is how
Correct.
that is how I kind of moved through it. I kept it, tried to keep it at 50-50, and I realized that is not okay for me. It needs to move a little bit. It's the same with masculine, feminine. Let it be fluid versus me trying to contain it in this measuring cup of, okay, this is how we have to stay. And yeah, so I can't even remember what I was talking about, but there you go. There.
Thank you for that, because I think so often we do. We're like 50% of masculine, 50 for
Mm-hmm.
feminine, and we're we have both
Mm-hmm.
inside of us, and we can shift in between them. And if we have a partner who's feeling it very much in their
I
feminine
remember you.
space, we can shift into our masculine space,
Mm-hmm.
and hold that space for them, so that they have time to be more receptive, and we can
Mm-hmm.
be more giving, and we can
Mm-hmm.
move between those. And I think our conditioned culture of everything's boxed, right?
Yeah.
And defined. And I think we're moving into a time in the world where we're recognizing, well, that Aquarian energy, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about fluidity,
Yeah.
innovation, uniqueness, individualism, to show who we really are. And I love that you are picking up on that within sharing your gifts, as opposed to thinking, okay, this is the only way I could do art, or or I am this, or
Yeah.
you're moving between all of them and using all those skills.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting, but it seemed very normal when it happens to bring it all together and circle back as a kid when I was painting my walls and environments and sunsets and under the
Today.
sea. Like, oh my goodness, my poor parents at the time having, oof. But I just like I would always be creating my own environments, and
I told him.
that's as an artist as a young kid, and then trying to
Basement.
learn through traditional school, right, how the techniques and how to paint. And I got really, really frustrated with realism and trying to perfect techniques that really just weren't organic to me. So, and paranormal life of growing up with haunted houses and ghosts and all that kind of good stuff. And then inevitably just realizing full circle, I was trying to be something or express something the way somebody else was doing. And it wasn't until I just stopped And I'm like, what is this? And I played. They always say the power of the play. And it truly was in that moment where I was like, oh, okay, here, this is fun. And I remember like one of the first few ink blots I ever made, it was to see how I feel. It was a tool I used to help myself to see how I felt, get it out of me, purge it out on this paper. And then I could, well, it was on the floor. So I would stand up and take a look at from all these different perspectives of how I felt. And it just helped me move through that, whatever I was going through or whatever I was holding within. It's like, get it out of me, barf it up, for lack of a better, beautiful term, barf up this blot and take a look, put it on the wall, put it on the ground, come back to it a few days later, and then maybe have my husband walk past it and he's like, oh, that one is just creeping me out, stuff like, and I'm like, oh, but I love it. And the conversations that were conscious and curious and all just came from this uncontrolled expression. And yet at the same time, crediting, there is a history to it. It's not out of thin air, but for whatever reason, I just allowed myself to lean into the abstractiveness of it and through the history of Rorschachs and inkblots. And then I slowly stepped in to communicate to others what I was seeing, whether it was my husband or my friends. I'm like, oh, I see this, and this is what I feel it means. And it just kind of grew from there, this blending and blending and blending of the things that were always there as pillars for me, no matter what job, no matter any environment I was in. I was always the spooky girl and creative girl. And sure enough, full circle, there she is, still there.
There she is on YouTube.
Yeah, there she is. And for those that know me, like my family and friends, like I don't have many pictures of me. I don't like being out. I want to be, like I said, right? I want to, no, I'm good. I'm good. You get all the attention. I am fine. To come out of a shell of sorts to say, yep, this is where I'm at right now. And I don't hold it to a finite goal, or this is what success means. This is what, this is, or what I have to meet. I don't have those typical goals in this area. It is truly an evolution.
Grandmother.
And I just allow it to evolve. And I'm along for the ride.
I love that. That's my belief as well, is that, healthy detachment. Yeah. For
That's,
what, yeah.
Again, you say things so efficiently, what I seem to take 10 minutes.
I love it. No, I'm with you. It is. It's just like, let's see where this takes us.
Yeah.
And anytime I start getting, overly focused on numbers, how many subscribers, how many, how much feedback, it takes me down a spiral. And I'm like, no, it takes me out of the moment. And, for me, I get to talk to interesting people who are innovative and outside the box. I'm like, this is like my sweet spot, man. This is catnip. Yeah. I love it. And it's like, and when I lose that focus, it just isn't fun anymore. So I just bring it back to that center.
Danger.
Yeah.
And it is, I think we all go through that because again, there's that healthy balance, right? Yes, we're all energy, but the ego still has, there's certain environmental factors as business people, we do need to care. Are we getting views, or are, whatever the case is, I'm still learning all this. So what is a tag? And anyway, it's fine. So you learn, but you're just like, okay, and I can constipate myself. I'm very aware of when I'm constipating. And it's like you said, like hyper focusing. And I can start to get like a gremlin inside and just be like, oh,
knife.
I don't know. And I have to return back to my intent within myself and just, oh, that's right. I'm here to hold space for myself and allow that space to inspire others, or as I say, irritate them as well, freely. It's fine. It's fine. But I'm here. Doesn't mean I'm going away.
That's so good. And is that the advice you would offer someone who is wanting to start exploring their paranormal gifts or the paranormal world, even not on YouTube, but just in their own lives?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Well, I think you said it right in there, is explore. No different than maybe online. We all have, maybe 10, 20 different podcasts that we thoroughly enjoy, but to get to those 10, you probably listen to 100, and you just find who you resonate with and allow that to change over time as well, and maybe come back or revisit things. But in regards to, the metaphysical or supernatural, whatever it is, lean into it. I know, like, I'm the first to, like, if anything is spooky or scary, because I'm more like Tim Burton versus horror movie style. So I'm, if there's this fine line, I'll be the first to pee my pants if I'm going to get scared. I'm like, I don't, I don't seek out scary situations. That's
Yeah.
not what I try and do. But there's this willingness to pause when you're at the grocery store and it's in the mundane, to integrate it in the mundane, and go into the grocery store and stop at the plant section and just appreciate that for a moment, and the colors of the vegetables and the people wandering around, having good and bad days, frustrating days. And I don't want to sound mean when I say this, but not letting it affect you, but being an affect in there and going in with this peaceful, whether it's your job, whether it's you're going to the coffee shop or wherever it is that you're going, and slowly tuning into, if you're walking into a place and it's agitating, make a choice and notice that, talk to that spirit of something, whether it's your spirit, the spirit of the walls residually, the spirit of the room. Take a moment to communicate with it, even if it's silent in your head. Acknowledging it can do wonders, and not thinking you're crazy, as most of us probably go through that phase, right? It's like, am I slowly going crazy? I don't know, but pause and even question that.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people who are, struggling with, this new world that we're stepping into, understand that they have power in it. They have control.
Absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
not just, pawns,
Mhm.
and to be moved about in it. They're part of it. They're part of the
We're
co-creation.
collaborators. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we are here to we're here to collaborate with the consciousness of everything that is, at least around us, that we are consciously or subconsciously interacting with. And to kind of step into that with a curiosity versus this, goal in sight. But curiosity sometimes can get you pretty far, and asking a question as well. And if there's somebody else that's doing something and you're like, I remember when I saw this lady macrame, and I'm like, I need to talk to her. What is this knot making fiasco that looks so wonderfully hippie? Like, sometimes just simply showing your, what some might say in that ego space of, oh, I know, or it's just, I would like to be a kid. Hi, how did you learn this? How did you do this? Or can you show me how? Can I take a class? The inquisition and the inquiry without being intrusive, and really being earnest about that. Yeah, that's really, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of like how I go. I just kind of move around with what shiny objects in life stand out and what keeps me curious. And it balances the mundaneness that, yes, I'm going to go to the grocery store and we have to get our cars fixed and we have to do all these, mundane things that don't actually take away. They're like the other part of the earthly ego. They are there for sustenance. It's healthy, and it keeps us present in the tangible reality we're in, and to interact with that. And yeah, it can be boring sometimes. I get it. But at the end of the day, every reward has a responsibility attached to it. And you buy a car, there's responsibilities. You buy food, there's responsibilities. You create, there's responsibilities. And okay. And if you just kind of lean into that, right? Like the whole lava lamp of this whole conversation, and let the lava lamp and the heat underneath it, and let that fire, and just let it flow. When you're seeking out how to find different ways to fine tune your skills, lean in, listen, ask. And if you have an idea that seems out otherworldly, talk to people. Having a confidant can do wonders. A true confidant.
And I think finding those people that are as curious as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And, because we all have those people in our lives that, they've never, seen a solution they couldn't find a problem for,
Mm-hmm.
that type,
Yeah,
right? And, or yeah, problem for
I
every
know.
solution. Yeah, I think it's how it goes. Yeah,
I knew what you meant.
I know.
It's fine. Divinely dyslexic. We're just, yeah, we'll figure it
It's like
out.
I flipped that one, did I? So, but it's true, right? Like, there's always a problem. It's like find those people that are as curious
Mm-hmm.
about the possibilities of trying a new path, of
Yep.
exploring a new way of thinking, or a new approach to something that maybe has been done one way for way too long. And
Yep.
I love that idea of the curiosity because I'm a very curious person. I think it's the thing that has helped me throughout my entire life is that
Yeah.
curiosity. Anytime I've been knocked down, my curiosity is what gets my feet back under me. What's next?
Right? Even
Yeah.
if you just lay there and think, if you're not feeling like getting up in the morning, you're like, I'm curious what my morning coffee will taste like today. And you start to envision that hot coffee, or at least for me, for coffee, right? For some days, that's what I'm like, yeah, that's alluring. I'm getting up. This day's getting started. This is how we're going to start the day. And that's all it needs to be. It's just start the day and follow little curiosities and whatever, roles that are in place. And what I'm learning to do better and better is in the mundane world, as I already do through scrying, is not attaching predisposed emotions or energy to those mundane things. Do you know what I mean? Did I say that correctly? Like, I have such a freedom when I'm scrying. I can't predict how an inkblot's going to feel or what shapes are going to come up. So say if I'm like, okay, well, today's, administration day, so I'm going to get up, do the dishes and do the laundry. It can be easy to predetermine the energy of those actions. And I'm trying to not do that.
Pathetic.
I'm trying to pull back and say, I'm going to go in for this task and allow it to possibly be more than I thought, appreciating warm clothes coming out of the dryer if I have cold hands and appreciating that moment. I know it all sounds very cheesy, but sometimes for me, that's how subtle it is.
No, I thank you for that because I'm with you. We've all done dishes before
Mm-hmm.
many times. We folded the laundry. So we always think the same thing's going to occur with it. But every time is a new time.
Mm-hmm.
My every time I get up out of bed, like today, I've never lived October 27th, 2023
Mm,
before. I'll never
beautiful.
live it again. I'm curious about what this day is going to give me because it's the only October 27th, 2023
Oh,
I'm going to receive.
so lovely.
Yeah.
My
And
goodness, it's a good thing you're an author. It all just makes so much sense, right? When you just
it does change your approach. And I
Mhm,
think we get so bogged down in the mundane
mhm.
and the responsibilities and
Doomed.
the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ego of it, the wounded aspect of, nothing's ever going to change. This way it's always been,
Mhm.
you always do this,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
never do that. It's like, no, no, this is a new day. They can try
43.
something new. I can try something
Absolutely. And then for those that decide to say such a statement and decide to stay there, that's fine too. But I don't have
new.
to stay there with you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? The same way I'm holding space for me and you're holding space for yourself, they're holding that. It's all good. It's
Yeah.
all good. I'm not going to try and move anyone. That's something I've learned as well. Like, when we were talking about, trying to say like, well, what do you explain, or if people don't understand it or whatnot? I'm not trying to move mountains. I'm not trying to move anyone's psychology into, an alternative space, or if they're hardcore this. No, I'm not trying to move mountains.
When I realize that, my journey is mine and their journey is theirs,
Hmm.
and the lessons that they have to learn are on their journeyed path, not mine.
Mhm.
I have to say, the weight that lifted off of me was just, it was, completely life altering,
Yeah.
and when I realized, as an example, maybe someone's journey was to lose me.
Hmm.
And you're like,
Wow.
oh, that put
Stress.
me back in the center of my own life.
Yeah.
And it put me secondary in theirs.
Oh.
It just opened up everything. I'm like, once again, healthy detachment,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that people are replaceable and I don't grieve or miss them or miss an experience or a job. It just means that I'm okay with the next thing that's coming my
Mhm.
way and
Yeah.
open to
And open to it, right? And to be open to that, I think is, yeah, that's where I'm at literally now. And I just happen to be sharing it out with the world, apparently. So
apparently.
let's just do it. Let's just, and some people have asked me, how do you do the same thing? How do you do it? I'm literally sharing it. You're seeing it happen in real time. This is it. I don't have a secret book somewhere. I don't have, you know, I have education
I can't.
absolutely and I have personal experiences in these things, but I've also sought out different teachings and gone through esoteric things to look within myself, not for an answer. And I think that's one thing for me. I just was never looking for an answer when I took yoga, Thai massage, or, even another ladder up in the job. I was never looking for an answer. And so many times when I would see people get onto a mat or something in their practice, or even in meditation, I'm here for an answer. I never had that experience. It was always a modality that taught me
I can't.
something to get to the next. It was a part of the evolution. It was a tool as part of the evolution. And I just decided that was a way I would receive it. And they all have their value. They were non-competitive, but yeah, and then to detach from that as well and allow it to, okay, well, I'm not teaching yoga now, but still have a personal practice. That's okay. It's okay that you're not doing everything you know how to do professionally, or you're not, as an outward offering. It's okay that you're not making all the meals at home and you do eat out every so often. Like, it's okay
Taurus.
to pull back a little bit and enjoy things changing. And like we were talking about, that masculine, feminine, or ego essence, it doesn't have to be this riding 50-50-50-50-50. It can be like, oh, okay, so my yoga practice has changed, or this has changed, or you're onto a new book, and that's okay. It doesn't mean the other book on the bookshelf is meaningless. It was part of lifting you up to wherever our curious little hearts want to go.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. That was so beautiful.
you.
That just so resonated with me
Oh, I love
because
that.
that's my practice as well. It's like, next chapter,
Yeah.
what's next? And you live until you don't. And then you
And
go into the spirit realm. And
and I like that chapter thing
I
because
can
it's
hear you.
to also go back and reread a chapter is okay too. Sometimes, like, am I the only one that sometimes has to go back and be like, what did that paragraph say? What? I I got to roll back a few pages here and reassess what I read, or take it in, a little differently, or be really present. So I find that with reading.
No. And I love that because sometimes sitting and reflecting on a past experience, and because I tend to chew on something until I understand it, like a dog on a bone.
Like beef jerky.
And I do that, and I know anytime I'm doing that, it's because there's a lesson in there
Mm,
I haven't received yet. So I used to get very frustrated, like, oh, why am I not past this? Why can I not let it go? It's like, no, there's still something.
yeah.
I haven't got to the center yet, right? I haven't gotten there yet. And so I'm patient with myself and I'm gentle with myself
Mm.
as I'm chewing on that. That's my
The
practice. That's
the
my
everlasting gobstopper of Willy Wonka.
Granddaughter.
But that's right, and you just said it as well. I'm learning and still learning to apply and how I can integrate it to be gentler on myself as I am seemingly more effortlessly with others. And kindness. Like, yeah, I'm a Capricorn tough nut, and I know I can, pull it out when I need to and get her done. And I can sometimes, when I'm in my very hyper focused, or like you said, very even my husband will say, you look so gruff, you're just unapproachable. And I'm like, but I'm just very focused and I'm in the zone. And respecting those things sometimes, because it can be that bubble can be so valuable to something we can't think of yet. But then kindness comes into patience, like you said, and it's like, oh, okay, let's immerse myself. And it might look a little gruff. Yes, I understand that. But on the other hand, the other percentage is kindness. I want to be kind to myself through this process. And even as you said about the lessons, I'm like, I want to lean into the lessons a little lighter, because I'm tired of learning the way I've always
Cancer.
it's a little unnecessary, I'd like to think, at this point in my life. like the lessons don't need
I
to.
always fall back on, I'm willing.
Yeah.
I'm willing. If it's going to be rough, I'm willing.
What do I
prefer
do?
not to be, but I'm willing,
Yeah. If we're
knowing
gonna,
that there's something I need on the other side of it.
yeah,
I
like
prefer it not to be, but
absolutely.
I'm willing. Yeah.
And to really enjoy the other things around that rough road. Right.
Yeah.
And if that's the focus for one reason or another, be like, okay, well, thank goodness cotton swabs are still soft. Like, so many other things could go wrong.
Exactly.
Sometimes,
Oh, Steph, this has been such a pleasure. We could make this
oh,
like a 10-hour conversation. I
it
have no
could
doubt.
be. It was
I want to
fun.
make
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I want to make sure that everyone understands that you offer these readings,
Yes.
and that they can purchase them for themselves or as
Yep.
gifts to others. And
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, and what do they receive from you when you do
Fairies.
an ink blot and interpretation?
So you'll get an 8x10. Actually, I have yours, like, just if I can grab it without having everything fall for those that can see. So you'll get an 8x10 ink blot on handmade paper. I didn't actually hand make it, but I definitely just have found my medium. And as well, you'll get about a 40 to 60 minute, it depends. I try not to control it, 40 to 60 minute pre-recorded reading. And any insights, obviously, I'll share in the pre-recorded reading that is unlisted unless you choose for it to be public to inspire our interconnected nature. And I also know that I am so grateful that a lot of the people that have stepped forward with me have chosen for their readings to be public. And for some, that can be very vulnerable, right? To just be like, oh, this is out there. But there's some wisdom in it. And I understand in some contexts, but the wisdom in it to remember our interconnected nature, and what, again, you see and what somebody else receives from a reading for Jen or Bob or, Joe.
The Ego Project.
Yeah, the Ego Project. Nobody is judging you on it, because they're having their own experience in your energy that we are all connected with.
Yeah.
So, but you always have that choice. Sorry, see, I just like a yammer off.
Oh no, that was so important, I think, for people
Okay.
to recognize, because when you
Talk to me.
share on your channel, there will be a name in
Mhm.
there. And I've seen in the comments, people are like, who's Jen?
Yeah.
Right. But I've listened to some of those,
Mhm.
and I've had takeaways from that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that resonates with me, or I've had
Yeah.
that experience, or I'm in that experience.
Yeah.
So I think that's so valuable. And we are, as I said earlier, we are sharing the Ego Project.
Yes.
It will be public on iScry with Steph.
Yep.
And so you can look at that. And those looking on YouTube, watching on YouTube, Jen, Jen's with us right now. Okay.
See, we're in it. We're in the aura. There it is.
Steph just held up the
Yep.
Ego Project inkblot, which you will see on the Ego Project website as well, and on the video that Steph will be sharing publicly for
Please
the
listen.
Ego Project. Yeah, please listen. So I think, the visual component with
Yeah.
the reading and the tarot cards and the oracle cards. Oh, I love it. I truly do. And you have other products that you sell, other offerings, services,
Yeah.
which we will share in our description
Okay,
so that
cool.
people can just go there and take a look at it. And I would love to have you back. I know
Oh, I
Christine
would
is
love
just
to be back.
heartbroken.
I know
Yeah.
it's an opportunity, right? Well, opportunity, Christine. Thank you.
Yes, and we would love to have you back and to talk about, anything that you want to discuss, and that any new offerings, any ideas that
Yeah.
you have, thoughts that you want to process through. Would just absolutely love it.
Oh,
You're
I'm so
a true pleasure.
grateful. I'm so grateful. Thank you guys so much. And I know Christine isn't here, but she is in spirit.
She is
So,
okay.
and yeah, all of that good. It's been such a pleasure. And I'm like, it's such a safe place to communicate. So I appreciate that. So that we can open up and talk about it and be silly and serious all at the same time.
All at the same time. And of course, thank you to the spirit coming
Yes,
through
thank
through
you. Thank
Ghost
you,
2.
Ghost too. Yeah,
Very
absolutely. A
appreciated.
fun little addition.
Seizure.
Okay. Yeah.
Soar.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Make sure to check out iScry with Steph. And once again, this is our Halloween special episode. So everyone have a safe and happy Halloween if you practice. And check out Steph's offerings because the holidays are right around the corner. And what a perfect gift to give that special person in your life is a
Aw,
little bit of insight into them.
thank
Okay,
you. I
you're welcome.
appreciate that.
All right. Make sure to like and subscribe, everyone, both us and iScry with Steph. All right. Bye, everyone. See you next time.